He wears two types of uniforms, but he always has the same message. In tonight's Faces and Places of the Panhandle, we sit down with local minister and police chaplain John Woodrow.
See, the chaplain thing, I believe, was another God moment.
That's because John Woodrow didn't start out to be a police chaplain. In fact, he never even intended to be a minister.
Wasn't even in the top 200. All of my education, except for the final year, geared towards clinical psychology.
After 20 years in the Canadian military, Woodrow began to contemplate his next move. He got advice from a very wise man
who said, "What do you see yourself doing the rest of your life?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to talk to people about where God is in crisis." And he said, "You want to be a church minister, not a psychologist."
That started him on a road to becoming an ordained Methodist minister. While serving at a church in Geneva, Alabama, he got another call.
An F4 tornado touched down in Enterprise just north of us. There were 9 people killed that day, including 8 children, 8 students.
The Geneva police chief was in the area and stopped to help. 2 days later, that police chief called Woodrow.
And he said, "I'd like you to consider being our police chaplain." He also told me that driving back from Enterprise that day, he would have given anything to have a police chaplain he could call.
After completing his training, Woodrow was sworn in.
But once I was brought in to police chaplaincy, it was such a perfect fit.
When Woodrow moved to Panama City Beach as pastor of Gulfview Methodist Church, it didn't take long for the police department to come calling too.
I wouldn't be on board with the beach police if it wasn't for Chief Whitman and his approach to leadership. He views that department as a family.
Woodrow is passionate about his work as a shepherd to his congregation and to his officers.
I know the chief calls them his officers, but they're my flock too.
Woodrow says his role as chaplain is twofold.
The first part of police ministry is taking care of the officers.
He does that by simply being available.
These officers carry such tremendous emotional burdens, stresses they incur on the street, within the department, in their own families. Most of what they carry is extremely confidential. So to have a badge you can talk to have a chaplain on the inside, is a tremendous asset for these officers.
The second part of being a police chaplain?
Taking care of the general public. When we have a death on the beach or a tragic incident of any kind, quite often we'll receive a call as a chaplain to come out and minister to a family.
He often receives accolades for his work, but says the real heroes are the officers.
I've watched people level weapons at an officer and the officers refrain. I've seen people threaten to kill themselves and the officers do what they can to talk them down, and I've seen life after life saved.
The days and nights can sometimes be long, but Woodrow wouldn't have it any other way.
I can't tell you how proud I am to be a chaplain and be part of this organization. I don't know how many years God will give me to do this, but until he tells me I can't, this is a passion, and I'm going to serve as best I can to help them serve and protect this community. They are the heroes, absolutely.
Woodrow is the senior chaplain, but works alongside 2 others. He says they feel incredibly blessed to be in a community that fully supports its law enforcement officers.